What up? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And look at you. You done stumbled upon little OTB Saints, where we bring you all the latest black and gold coverage.
Who are the Saints going to draft? Who's going to be their quarterback? What does the salary cap look like? All that information and more.
Hope you enjoy it. Like, subscribe. New Orleans Football's coverage is out of control right now, y'all. Remember Mike Triplett joining the team this last year, Brooke Kirktroffer as well. They got articles, they got podcasts, they got videos. New Orleans Football's a site. Sign up today. Nick, let's talk Chargers. Before we talk the game, though, we're not privy to the practices in the way that y'all are. But like Jake told us the other day, the practices are arguably more important than the game. What were your biggest takeaways from the joint practices with the between the Saints and Chargers?
Yeah, definitely way more important. I mean, it's disappointing they canceled these Houston ones too, because it's just they set up what they want to do, and you see it. It's specific, and I think you just gather better information. Like, you know, they ran 48-second drives. Like, you can't necessarily do that in a game over and over and just, you know, kind of see it or even set it up even once. So, you know, I think it's just a lot more informative that way. You know, I think a lot of the stuff we were seeing, it kind of just got hammered home a little bit. You know, I know there's some different takes out there. I honestly felt better about Mike Thomas after these joint practices coming out of him than I did going in. I was starting to get a little bit worried with some of the stuff we were seeing here locally, and I think it was more about, like, I think Mike kind of getting in his head a little bit and getting frustrated, like dropping some passes. We saw him like scream a couple times, like in frustration, punch a wall. You know, and coming out here, he started making plays. He was getting open. And you know, I felt a little bit better about what we saw there. I thought Chris Olave looked pretty good the first day, second day not so much. You know, it solidified our thoughts on Derek Carr, but you know, I kind of feel better about the defense too overall. It feels like something that could be, you know, pretty strong for them this year. I'm still not there on the pass rush. I need to see it in the games, but I mean, I think the information that we're gathering is that it's probably solid. You know, I don't know that it's going to be a great part of the team or strength of the team, but I think maybe we've seen enough to maybe start to think that it's not going to be a weakness. And coming into camp, that was you know, one of my top three things. But O-line, I'm still worried about. I mean, I think that still remains my biggest concern. This game, I was a little bit disappointed with what we saw with Trevor Penning. It should have been a game that he dominated, and I think 4 times the speedy pass rusher for the Chargers, 45, name is escaping me. So I'm just kind of beat him with speed 4 times, and I mean, that's just not something that you want to see from a first-round pick. You should go in the game and dominate. I thought he was okay in the practices. He was against Mac quite a bit, you know, got beat a handful of times, but was solid. I think overall, Ramczyk looked really good against Bosa.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there was just kind of a lot of proving of what we thought we were seeing locally went out there. A lot of it proved out, I think.
Nick, first off, I'm glad you survived Hurricane Hillary and an earthquake as well. You probably never thought you'd go to Southern California and have to worry about your first hurricane of the season. So congratulations there. Hey, what about on the other side? You mentioned some of the Saints offensive line and one-on-ones, and you mentioned the pass rush. How did the defensive line do against the Chargers offensive line in those one-on-ones?
Yeah, so unfortunately we split up field. Like, it was offense one day, defense the second day.
Gotcha.
I went offense the first day, Tripp was defense the first day. And then when we flipped, they didn't do one-on-ones the second day. So I didn't have I don't have a great answer on that, you know, but in the team stuff, you know, I think we kept seeing Carl Granderson show up. He had a handful of plays. It's Peyton Turner, though, that keeps kind of popping every single day. And I've been really, really reluctant to buy into it because it's just been so long. And you know, I got to see it. I got to see it in the games. And, you know, making plays against the second team is great. Seeing it again in this preseason game, he was back there a few times. You know, he's making plays. I just got to see it, though, in real action at this point to start buying that stock. But, you know, those two guys are flashing consistently. Foskey, you know, and the team stuff kept looking how he's looked overall. You know, I don't think we're seeing a whole lot there yet. No. And I'm kind of to the point where I'm not going to expect anything from him during the season. I think he needs, you know, a good amount of time to develop. It's just been disappointing that, you know, he can't find a way to use his speed even yet to really make plays consistently in practices. So, you know, game, same thing. I mean, he gave up that touchdown to the stick, just kind of doesn't have the recognition.
Too.
Yeah, man. It's just like there's too much going on for him right now. I think he needs to find a way to slow it down. And when it does, I think that we'll start seeing the talent. But it's definitely moving way too fast for him right now.
Nick _Underhill on X.com, New Orleans on football site. Nick, what about Juwan Johnson? Yesterday, I think it was yesterday. So Mario and Taylor love fantasy, and we were kind of discussing Juwan Johnson's potential worth. Do you think, is this a cat that could, does he have top 5 potential? I mean, we know Derek Carr loves to throw to tight ends. If you look at the trajectory of his numbers, it's a really impressive jump from year to year. And when you look at this preseason, I've heard he dominated a lot of the, or played very well, had some really big moments in some of those joint practices. Juwan Johnson, where do you think his kind of ceiling is relative to other NFL tight ends?
I mean, I think it's pretty high. And the thing is that the bar on being like a top 5, top 10 tight end really isn't that high. Like, there aren't a lot of truly productive players there. So I think he has a chance to be one of them. I mean, it looks comfortable, man. Like that's probably like the main thing that I would take from this whole entire summer is that like him and Carr just look like really, really comfortable with one another, and like it's becoming more and more explosive. Juwan got down the field a couple times, and he has that. The receiver background, he can make some of those plays up the seam and down the field. And I think Carr is someone that likes to throw the ball there. So I think he has a really good chance of being that guy. And I think he's really separated from that pack of tight ends too. Like there was a point where it felt like they were all kind of making plays and they were all kind of bunched together. And slowly but surely, like he just kind of like just ran off from the group, and everybody else is kind of way behind. So I think he's definitely going to make a lot of plays. Carr's great in that 2-minute drill. Juwan's built for the 2-minute drill, just kind of the way they do it. So I think he's going to, I don't know what it takes to be a top 5 tight end, but like if you're saying like 600, 700 yards, I think that's something that I would probably place the bet on, and I think he can get there.
Hey, what about the corner battle? We know that, a couple of outside corners. We know Lattimore is going to be one of them, and then we are kind of trying to figure out exactly how the nickel's going to play out and the opposite corner outside of Lattimore there. And it's a perfect team in the Chargers to go against, Nick, because you've got 3 first-round receivers. Now, all different years, but you have 3 guys that the Chargers are counting on. You just drafted one in the first round. We know what Ken Allen. We know what Mike Williams can be. How did they look against a very good Chargers receiver room?
I think Adebo and Alontae Taylor both look pretty good. I thought Adebo maybe played a little bit better overall. He had a couple pass breakups, held his own, didn't draw too many. I think he had 1 flag in these practices. I think he caught one in these practices. Taylor had a couple too. Overall, I think Adebo's kind of outplayed Taylor a little bit, but I still believe in Taylor's potential and upside a whole lot more than Adebo's, which kind of makes it tough. You want him on the field to develop because I think there's a little bit more there. And I think it is really close, kind of almost like coin flip close where you can't go wrong with either guy. But if I had to pick one to play right now, I'm putting Adebo ahead. It's the only thing with him is what it's always been. It's just kind of the penalties, and I think last year was kind of weird for him too with the injury. I don't think he ever fully got back to form. But coming into this season, he looked great. I think he looks great right now. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, if I had to play a game now, I would go with Adebo. But if I had to go 17, and there's a chance for the other guy to get better over the course of the season, I still like Taylor a little bit more because I just think that he can be a much better player. He just has to kind of, keep slowing things down a little bit. Like the issue for him is just kind of the aggressiveness with which he plays. And that's one of the things you love about him because, when he's blowing up a run or being competitive, I think that stuff feeds the defense. But when it's like a curl, it's just like he's going at it too hard and he can get beat on some stuff like that would change the direction because he's just like over pursuing and just, everything's 100 miles per hour. If he can just ramp it down a little bit, kind of, contain that, I think he can. I think he can be really, really good. But I don't know. Just kind of the DNA of this team right now is that they've been going with sure things. It's going with Jaylon Smith instead of a young linebacker. It's getting Darrell Williams instead of believing in Ellis Merriweather. It's going and getting out proven commodities on the coaching staff and instead of trying to find like young up and comers. Like they're trying to make sure they're cutting out the margin for error overall, which kind of makes me think. In something like this, they might go with Adebo, but I can see it going either way still.
Nick, I'm glad you mentioned Jaylon Smith. You described him as rangy in the practice reports, and that's definitely how he looked on Sunday. Has he solved your depth questions at linebacker?
I think so. Yeah, I do. And So is like Nephi Sewell, I think, taking the next step, and they just got some decent options at that position. But Jaylon is someone that I think just right away, like immediately on the field, it's like, all right, like they'll be fine if one of these guys get hurt. I don't think that he's like a huge difference maker, but if DeMario or Pete Werner misses some time, like I'm not going to lose sleep over it. He's definitely somebody that can come in, handle business, and do what he's got to do. And I think, I think you saw it right away. He had 2 third down stops. He made some plays in practice immediately. He was out there sideline to sideline a little bit, making plays in the flats, reading them, reacting, and, all that stuff. Everything you need to see. It was just very much like, all right, this guy's a pro. Like, it's handled, it's settled. They're good to go if something happens.
Nick, the story that we actually haven't even mentioned on the show yet, and it's just, I don't, because I don't know really what to make of it. What is the latest on Jimmy Graham, and kind of set up what is official thus far in terms of what happened to him over the weekend?
I mean, apparently he's doing okay. He was at the game. He watched the game from the stadium. So I think it's not something that like where he's like in a danger zone, like where something else is going to happen. I think they feel okay about where he's at. Sounds like he's getting better. Honestly, kind of a weird situation. You ask people, there isn't a lot being said. So I don't know. Like, honestly, it's some kind of waiting and seeing and waiting for them to put the information out there. If a guy had a seizure, like that's just not something that I'm digging too hard on. It's like, is he all right? Yeah, all right. So what's going on? If you aren't getting a whole lot of answers, like you just kind of leave some stuff like that alone. But I think he's doing all right. Hopefully he'll be able to continue doing everything he wants to do. And if that's playing football, hopefully, it's all good and he can do that. But yeah, I haven't really heard anything. So I don't know. It's kind of a surprising situation, and hopefully he's doing all
right. Nick, all right, to wrap up here, have you seen enough out of this Saints team in this preseason?
Yeah, I think coming in it was 10 wins. I think I still feel 10 wins coming out of it. I think they've shown a lot of what we need to see. I think we'll probably see maybe some more starters this week since they didn't get the Texans game. So, like, if there's anything else they got to figure, or the Texans practices. So I think if there's anything they still need to figure out, we'll see them in this game. But I feel like we kind of know everything we got to know about them. And, the way they kind of moved in this game felt that way too. Like, they feel good about their starting 22. There's questions at cornerback, so those guys are on the field. But outside of that, and there's questions about Penning, so he was on the field. But outside of that, I think they kind of know everything they need to know. And I kind of feel the same way. It's just they're strong at the top. I think a little weak behind them. You got to hope for health. And if they stay healthy, I think they can get the time.
I love it, man. I cannot wait. neworleans.football is your site for all your Saints coverage throughout the football season. Go sign up today. Nick, thank you so much, man. Wow, just amazing black and gold takes right there, Jake.
I don't think I've ever heard any takes that are better than the two guys that just gave you that take.
And you can keep getting them by going ahead and liking, subscribing, ringing the bell to get notifications when we post. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next OTB Saints.